Gentlemen, let's get down to business.
Can you dig it?
You dig it?
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Yeah, I can dig it, yeah.
Can you dig it?
I am thrilled to kick off the new season with Diamond Dave Broderick and a lefty whose forehand should come with a warning label. He is currently the director at Montclair Country Club, a former Davis Cup player, three-time New Jersey Classic winner, two-time Montclair Open winner, and national champ Mikk. Hello, Mikk.
Welcome. Couple of fact checks here.
Oh, geez.
You ready?
Yeah.
Montclair Golf Club.
Okay.
And I think 4 league classics.
Did you not count last year, Sean?
I thought I did. I went in. I guess I had that wrong.
Rupert, me and Mark Rupert pulled it out years back too. You don't have that one.
I did have that one, actually.
And then 3
And I
was
think
Zimmer.
me and Zimmer. I think 3 with Zimmer.
Yeah.
So just making sure you got the right specs.
Yeah, you're right. I missed the first with Zimmer. I stand corrected. I'm assuming, were you in fact the director at Montclair for the first one? Is this your baby?
That is correct. Yeah, we started. I started Montclair 2020, and the tournament was 2022. Was the first edition. So so we're moving on to the 5th. Right, that's the fifth year. I think we've had a good run. Start of the season, and it's great to see the club and the local community getting more involved each year. And I hope it's a fun tournament. I think it's a good setup. We put a lot of focus on the spectator experience and really try to make this a great weekend for everyone there. We got food trucks and video trucks and the whole, the pickleball area, which is kind of right next to the paddle courts, is like a tailgating area. We got screens out there so people can kind of hang out. And it's been a lot of work, but members enjoy it, and the club gets really involved with pulling it out.
You had also the clothing tent with Cliffy and Chris Bockel.
Yes, we're always shopping for local vendors, so we're in the process of anybody local businesses would like to get involved. Let us know. As we all know, if you've ever run a tournament, it's not as glamorous as sometimes the players think. I always I highly recommend for all the pro players once in their life to run a tournament. And then when they go to the next tournament, then maybe they will think twice if they complain about the food or Gatorades or balls or hot commanders or weather or heaters or hot commanders or weather again. And so the list goes on. So I always, I highly recommend that.
Outside of the club, has there been a sponsor or someone else that has sort of helped you make it what it is today? Sponsors?
There's been a few. Yeah, we've had kind of over the years, we've had a few realtors and a few members have put on. Numbers, yeah. So like we usually, it's a fairly break-even event. Like I said, it's not as glamorous, and for us, it costs us. Overall, it's probably between $30,000 to $40,000 to run an event like that in 2 days. So every local sponsor that can help us is great. Everything goes back to the tournament, and it's we fortunately have a very active membership, and then usually a few people always step up, and some of them have done it for years, and some of the roles have changed, and always looking to add a few more. So yeah.
Mikk, isn't the driving force behind Corient as the tour sponsor for the APTA? Isn't she a member of Montclair Golf Club?
Correct, Jenny Sowers. She's she's been sponsoring for some time, and she's obviously involved with the Montclair Open and with APTA now, and so she's phenomenal, and always always appreciate her help. So yeah, so we're fortunate. We have a lot of great members that are really, and Spyro and Harrison. I think Jason Spyro, he's a shore guy too, right? And
He
Dave
is.
Harrison, his partner. So
Yep.
they've been sponsoring for a couple of years.
They're big supporters of a lot of local New Jersey tournaments.
Yeah,
They're always generous and always involved.
Yep, Dave is aspiring PAL player. He's maybe hoping that it will drop his PTI, but you know, he's great. He's great. So yeah.
And how about timing? It's obviously the first big tournament of the year, right? Was there intention behind that? How did that happen in terms of scheduling?
Yeah, absolutely. Super. Actually, for us, it was when we were looking at the schedule 4 years ago. We really wanted to create. You know, the goal is to really create the best tournament, right? I mean, that's kind of. I've always tried to do things in that expectation. So we were thinking of ways how to get some attention, how to separate ourselves from a usual tournament experience where some of them are amazing and some of them I feel like there could be more, right? I think the game is evolving, so I feel like the goal would be to have more people there, have more fans, have the live streaming obviously has been great, but just to overall have a bit more of a party atmosphere where people who are not necessarily PAL players will kind of come out, right? So I'm sure in US you guys know we know the drill here with a lot of the sports that the experience is great. So we kind of wanted to have the first tournament of the year, almost like an Australian Open in tennis, where we know we're automatically going to get a lot of attention by just starting the season. And obviously it comes with challenges as well, as like registrations are coming in sometimes a little bit late because people are still figuring out their schedules. But so we have to really start early. I mean, we kind of start in May, first meetings with May, June. And also for us, the big thing is with our facility, we have an amazing facility, but it's not really perfect for a cold weather event. So we have a great outdoor. So our goal is to do it when it's definitely an outdoor event, right? Because we can kind of spread around the campus. We can use more of the club. We can use the pickleball area. We can use the parking. So it really allows us to do just so many more things. And for me personally, I tend to call myself a warm weather player. So I have a special interest there. I play my best paddle when I'm wearing shorts. So not that was the intention behind it, but it has helped me with the last 4 years of at least making a final. So that's been, and I think to be honest, that's been a great, if a local pro makes a final, it'll definitely fill up a few more spectators on a Sunday. So it's definitely been a bonus with it, and I love playing in front of home crowd and home club. And so yeah, it's definitely been intentional just to, figure out and separate. And also when we started it, I don't know, back in 4 years ago, how many of the tournaments were really including the club players, right? So we really went above, and I think we have a total of, I think we're between 250 to 350 players each year. So I don't know, size-wise with the other tournaments of the year, it's definitely up there. We have eight different PTI draws. I think the first year we had juniors included there, couple of junior exhibition matches, and even how we're staggering the men's and women's semis some years, which is a little different. And so the whole goal would be that it's a great weekend at Montclair, and if you're a PAL player, then come around and enjoy the food, enjoy paddle, enjoy the friends. So there's definitely some layers to it.
You must be reading my notes because I did write down some of the things that I thought were different about Montclair, and we were just talking about summer paddle waiting for you. So obviously it is early season, right? And it's a little warmer, so the ball's going to spin a little bit more, transition play. Who do you think that typically favors? Like you say, it favors you. Is that because of your massive forehand? I mean, what teams
I
typically
think
do?
I think it's just gonna obviously, depends on some technical shots and some skills, but I think it's just gonna generally favor players that are, you know, playing more, to play fast and they take their drives, they're speeding up a little bit intentionally more because it is hard to slow down, right? Because naturally more balls are gonna go through, right? You're not gonna be able to keep the net as well. Your overheads are gonna be higher, so it really changes the dynamics. And if you look at obviously there have been some players, even on the other warmer tournaments, I think it definitely makes a difference. And as far as names, I mean, I think all the top players can play so many different roles. But first year, I think me and Sven played against Johan and Steven in the final. Second year, Juan was in the semis there one year. Me and Scott Kaler played Dan Hansen and I think Dan Wright.
Dan Wright. Yep.
And then last couple of years it's been the same where me and my Montclair Open partner Graham, we've played Alvi and Jose, but I think Alvi and Jose will probably make a final in Alaska too, or whatever, right? So I don't think the conditions are gonna change as much for it. But Russell is playing, guys like Russell and who else? I'm not so familiar. Ethan Leon, right? So like these guys are I mean, I don't think it's gonna make like that big of a significance there. I think for me personally, I always enjoyed warmer weather. I haven't played as much lately, but yeah. So it's definitely. I feel like guys will have different preferences for that.
Do you think, and anyone give your opinion on it, with the ball being so lively in the warmer weather, do you think it favors, and it's probably the better skilled players do well because it's a lot harder to control the volley. It's a lot harder to control your lobs. It's just with the warm weather, you know, you're doing it all. You're controlling the ball where, when the ball gets colder, when it gets, in the colder season, it's not as bouncy, it's not as lively. You maybe get away with a little bit more. But, in the warmer weather, if you just miss, especially when it comes to volleying, if you're not a very good volleyer, you're not keeping volleys in play off a good drive.
Yeah. Again, like I say, it's well said because you can really choose not to volley as much, to be honest. Like you're gonna always have time to go back, and especially when you do it intentionally, when you're kind of creating some transition and you can redrive and you don't have to really play. Like I prefer on the ad court not to really play serve and volley. So the dynamics is gonna change, and I would rather have the team at the net because I know I'm gonna get a look from somewhere. And again, I feel like the game is on, me personally, I feel like it's going to be more on my hands. And like I said, it's just very easy to keep the net against, guys who can drive the ball. So I think it's a combination. And I think it's a combination of how you look at this and how, if you can play it to your advantage or versus the cold weather where, keeping the net is so much more crucial because drives are less effective. It's really hard to drive through the ball. Overheads are more effective. So, it kind of changes the script a little bit. So, and that's the fun part about it.
So Graham's kind of a Swiss Army knife, I think, right? So, but why do you think you guys play well together?
Um, I think there's a lot of reasons. Obviously, first he's a great guy, and I think that goes sometimes unnoticed who you're playing. Because you're gonna spend a whole day and a lot of weekends. So I always tell people that whoever you play with, you make sure you have a good time because you don't want to drive back. You don't want to drive back from Rochester and arguing why you lost the 7-5 in the third in the consolation backdraw, right? So that's not good. Or then go with two different cars. But Graham he's very easygoing. I think he has really, I think with his style, obviously, bigger picture, he's so adaptable to everybody. I think he knows his strengths and weaknesses really well. I think with me too is I kind of play pretty simple. Like I don't think there's a lot of. I think there's a lot. Listen, I think I don't want to say there's a lot of thought, but in terms of strategy, it's pretty simple. And I think he understands that, so he'll let me play like how I want to play, and I'll let him play how he want to play. I mean, and we also played a few money tournaments, like the early pro flights, like years back, but we really don't. We kind of chat about it a little bit before, and we don't really, we kind of play and also, but I think in terms of like deeper strategy, right? Why we complement these, I've always preferred to play players who are hitting, like controlling the overheads. So I tend to find the type of player like Graham and Sven, who were, they're kind of controlling the net really well, and I can kind of pinch in and hit some rollers. And as much as I always look like I'd rather be the captain on the baseline, but not at the net, right? So I always want my partner to hit really more overheads. So I look at those things where there's a few, and that's why, like with a lot of players, I don't play well. Like I remember years back, I played the tournament with Mark Parsons, and I think I was just moved to Jersey, and obviously I wasn't as good. And he was, 2016, probably, you know, 3-4 time national champion. And it was like it wasn't good at all. I mean, obviously it was just, because we're kind of similar-ish, right? We're kind of similar style. So, yeah, so it's sometimes on paper, what looks good can be not so good, and sometimes teams click, right? I'm sure, Dave, you've seen over the years where just teams just click and they just run with it, right? And then the click is over, and then they try again. Yeah, and
No, and
sometimes
I
there's
don't.
no real explanation. I mean, obviously you have to be on the same page, but it's not like, you're gonna know what you want from the partner, and hopefully they know what they want, and then you're just gonna try to, and hopefully you don't argue as much.
I also think if we're sticking with you and Graham, I think, like you had said it, I think Graham's a good player for you to play with, because it allows you to be the captain on the baseline. You like to roam. You're probably more dangerous when you get out of the corner. I think when, as much as it sounds silly to say, hit more balls to Mick, but there are times where I think, you don't like just standing in the corner. You like roaming
Yeah.
around. You love that forehand from almost on the edge side of the court, because you have 17 different spots where you can hurt people with. So I think from the baseline, that's very beneficial with you and Graham playing
And I
together.
think, yes, and I also think the roles are very strict. It's like I always use, like when me and Sven used to play, and we found ourselves in a position where Sven was hitting forehands and I was hitting backhands, which is not the case anymore because now I'm working on my backhand. But I remember we used to tell each other like, "Hey, Sven, we're not playing together, so you can hit forehands and I can hit backhands, right?" So it's like you're gonna try to clarify, and I think with Graham is very simple. Like it's once I get a look, I'm gonna take it. Like he's not gonna be like he'll tell me take it. Like he's not gonna be like, "Oh, what are you doing?" Right? And he can kind of control the play. He can control the play on the baseline with some, he'll chip and charge and he'll blitz and he'll come in. So it's not like, you know, you don't really know what you're gonna get from, but then also that allows him to have options, which he probably wants, right? And I'm speaking behalf of him because we haven't spoken that deep about it, but I'm sure he loves that. I don't think player like Graham or someone with similar style would like to constantly make decisions on the baseline. Like I love to make decisions. I want the ball like every single time, and I don't care if I miss because I'm just gonna take it again. And some days I make more, and some days I make less, and it's okay. Like I'm not gonna think about if I'm gonna take the forehand at the 5-0. Like it's just a matter of how hard I'm gonna take it, and now it's just a matter of if I'm gonna take the backhand too, right?
And I think that's a very good statement, very good point to bring up. Where if you go back 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and the name of the game was keep 5,000 balls in play, and making one mistake was like a bad thing. Where now I think paddle is becoming more enjoyable to watch. It's becoming more entertaining because players are willing. I'm willing to miss 10 shots to make 30.
Yeah,
Like I'm
and-
willing to miss. I'm willing to miss shots to try to win points because I know in the long run I'm going to win more points than I'm going to lose. And I think that's just a different mindset of the game of paddle, the way it's going. And again, I think it's just way more enjoyable and entertaining to watch.
but like I'll give you an extent. I agree, and you know, last few years I've played mainly league matches, and I've kind of messing around with my backhand, and I enjoy hitting it. But it really started, it really started with, as much as it was fun, but it really started with an intention of, like, when I'm playing league matches, right? So you would think more balls are going to go to my opponent, and league matches are great. I love playing. I've been playing league matches. I think I've missed one league match in 10 years in New Jersey, right? So I love league matches. But I'm also out there, like, I don't want to spend 3 hours, especially when I'm down the shore, right? So I'm going to find a way how I can get involved. So that's when the backhand thing kind of came around, where I can lob. And if I lob the ball, what's going to happen? What's the chance I'm going to get a drive?
Not likely.
Or a
It's
ball.
going to go to your partner.
Right.
Okay. Or they're gonna go to. But my mind was like, okay, so what's the trade-off? If any time the ball is above my hips, I'm just gonna roll it, because then they're gonna have to volley. And now what's the chance I might get a drive?
Much higher.
Better than when you're lobbing. Yeah.
But now I'm looking at this like, okay, it's a one set. And let's say I have 20 chances to drive the backhand. Okay. If I go half and half, 10 and 10, maybe the points will go, I don't know, 10 and 10, half and half. No difference, basically. But if I go 19 out of 20,
You're winning.
I might win more points. No,
You're
I don't know.
winning.
I mean, listen, at least, again, depending on the day, I feel like I can get involved, right? And then that's obviously league matches is sometimes different, because you might play a pro and a club player, so it's a little bit easier. With the pro level is much harder, because I think the pros can volley away more and they're not maybe as intimidated. But it's so that's kind of like the thought behind it. Not so much it's fun, but on my way, it's like, if I drive more, I'll and also the shot gets better, right? So that's kind of like maybe a bit, the reasoning behind it, where it's strategic too. It's not just like I'm going crazy with it or trying to, like, drive everything, but I'm really just trying to get involved, because there are matches where the ball is gonna go to my partner. And so I encourage everybody to work on driving.
It reminds me of a basketball saying, shoot to get hot, shoot to stay hot.
Yes.
But Mikk, just, this is the 5th year of the Montclair Open coming up. What are some matches that stick out to you, in the past 4 years? And if you had to pick one match, you say that might be the best match, that from the tournament's history, or, just a memorable one for you.
Because so for me, because I've been fortunate enough to be in 4 finals. So and I'll have some other matches too. But I think for me was when the first year, actually, when me and Sven, we beat Johan and Steven, I want to say 3-2, 4-2. That was pretty. That was a clean. I would say that was a clean match, right? There was not a lot of errors. For me personally, the second year was Sven got injured, and I tell this story basically. Sven got injured like 2 days before, on Thursday, and I didn't have a partner. But luckily, Scott Kaler was willing to drive down from Pittsburgh.
The morning of.
The morning of.
Legend.
It was raining that day, and it was and again, Scott kind of fits the same profile of, kind of Graham style, where really good volleys. It's like, do your thing, man. Don't worry about me. Basically, I'll make the volleys. I'll help. I'll, like, he fills so many spots, and it was really cool because we ended up winning the tournament, right? And we had some great wins. We beat, I think, Graham and Juan in the semis. These two probably stand out. I think there was a match one year, I remember, I think the same year, where Alvi and Enrique played Juan and Graham in a pouring rain. that was a great match.
That was
I
an
remember
incredible
that.
match. I watched that.
Right, you remember that? And it was,
Yeah.
and listen, I mean, look, so that was that, and there's been some great women's matches. Last year, I think I liked personally. I think 2 years ago, me and Graham played Nunez and Powers when they were national champs, and I think we had a good run. I think it was maybe 3-2. We beat them, and again, you're playing at the home club on a Saturday night, right? It's packed. People are partying. So it's like for a tournament director and a home pro, I mean, it's really hard to get better. I remember last year, that was a fun match. I think it was Russell and Gabe against Alvi and Jose.
Yeah.
Same thing, Saturday night match, third set, and they were just going for it. I mean, they were just like, there was no holding back. And there's been some great PTI matches, and I had one. I lost the thought, but there was one more match, but I don't remember right now. Oh, I think the first year, not the first, but Jared Palmer and Martin played a 3-setter against somebody. I remember that was in the fifth court there.
I watched. Was that the one against Gabe and Yancey?
I think so, right? I remember that was a
It
lot
was
of
in the
people there.
rain. I was telling
Yes.
these guys, and there was
Yes.
there was a line call, and it got really heated.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great match.
So I think we've had. Again, I think even this year's lineup, I would say we probably have 3 to 5 top men's draw of the year every year. I would say we've always had, and even this year's lineup, I think Jose is playing with Ethan Leon. You got, who do we got there? We got
Russell
Sean, I
and
think you
Morgan.
wrote some of them down.
Russell and Adam Morgan. That's a
Yep.
great team. I think Sven's away. Me and Graham. I think you have, Tomas and Drew. So we're trying to really promote the early signups because usually that helps for the other guys to come in too when they see a good draw. And same for the women's. Obviously earlier in the year. But Macy, Roxy, they've won a few times. So it's been a really, really. I think for a start of the year, a very strong field. I think this year men's draw is going to be absolutely packed. I mean, I know it also from even like when guys are like, when we get to the wild cards and the 24 draw, I think I had some, I don't want to say a top player, but somebody was like, hey, I'm going to play with my assistant this year. I was like, you're not going to get in. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, this was the cut last year. And, you're going to play the challenge draw. So he was like, okay. But the best thing is, how about, do you know the challenger draw winners from 2023 and 2024?
Jose and Guy.
Jose and Guy. What about 2024?
Who?
Ethan Leon and someone. I don't know the other partner, but I remember I'm watching this match.
I know who it was because I watched that. It was
Lakeman?
Yeah, we had Ben Lakeman on the pod. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember watching that match because I'm kind of running around and I focus on my own matches and make sure the tournament. And I see this, like, I think it was a challenger semi or a final. And I just kind of walk by and they're on court 5, like, which is like the side court. And I just kind of like storm by and I'm like, what was that? Like, he just hits a backhand. And I'm like,
yeah.
And I'm kind of like, who's that guy? Like, so hopefully this year too, we'll have some up and comers. They can grind through the challenge and draw, right? Make their mark, make their sign, and yeah. So and the challenger draw, I think every year we had a 32 challenger draw. I think every year 24, 32. Really good teams, great battles. So that's a great draw. And the women's draw last year, I think we had 24 teams. Yeah, I think it's hopefully the weather holds and we'll have a lot of fun matches. So yeah, looking forward to it. For the weekend and then Championship Sunday. Hopefully can go to the finals again and then but yeah, so yeah, that's the word.
And Sean, before we move on here, I have the tournament page up, but just for, people who are listening or watching that, aren't sure and, might not be able to get into the challenger, there's a men's 90 plus PTI combo, a 75 to 90, and then for women's, there's 80 to 95 PTI combo, 95 to 110, 110 to 125, and then 125 plus. So really, anyone who plays that is,
Yeah.
if the APTA can get involved and not just watch, but actually, get matches and then get to go watch, the pros play.
Yeah,
Mikk, how many sites will you use for this year's tournament?
I think we're probably close to 15 sites. 15 sites. I think 12 different draws. I think we're shooting for 300 players across all divisions. And again, as you know, running a tournament, Dave, is the more signups, the better we can. The more it helps to run and have more items or more entertainment out there for players and spectators too. So for us, the model is kind of that we do need the players so we can make this all weekend work for everybody, right? So that's the beauty of paddle, where we can get the community involved, and also the leagues, both the New Jersey Men's League and Women's League and Flex League. They've been supporters for years. I have to give them a shout out. So they already are coming in, and they we really appreciate that, because it really wouldn't be possible at this stage, way the structure of the game and the tournaments and the commitment that you have, as you need some local sponsors to make this happen. And like I said, don't forget, 99% of those people are volunteers and then doing it on their own will. So when you're playing a tournament,
Anybody want to take a crack at seeding the top four? We know who the top four are.
How does that process work, since it's the first tournament of the season? Are you?
I think it's pretty obvious. I think you'll probably have Jose and Ethan are probably one. I'm guessing maybe even Russell and Adam might be 2 or 3.
Ahead of former champions?
Probably me and Graham will be like 3, 4. Hopefully we got the 4th seed. And you never know. Maybe somebody else will come in there.
And
I think Dave is gonna give a crack at the challenger draw. I think we're gonna try to give him a at least his a top 8 seed.
I need a bye to the finals.
With his PTI. I do have to mention, Dave, it's 3 matches on one day. Okay.
It's a big negative.
Yeah. Might be 4. Listen,
Free
if we
beer.
go 30,
Free
hey,
beer
if we go
day.
32 draw, we might have 4 and the final on Sunday. So just when you sign up, just make sure you're aware of that.
Listen, I'd have to do the live stream from a hospital bed.
Wait, Mick. So I was down in Stone Harbor, and I know that you played against Jose and Ethan.
Mhm.
What did you see differently between those two versus Jose and Alvi?
Good question. I think they were still, obviously they were incredible. They ended up winning the tournament. I think they were still fine tuning. They played actually slightly different than I thought. Where they were
Slower?
much more selective and
Yeah.
like much more selective and patient and really taking the right shots. And I mean, listen, good luck beating them this year. Obviously, right? It's hard to it's kind of hard to imagine that it wouldn't work. Right? It's just a matter of how good.
So
Yeah.
if while we're talking about Ethan and Jose, my question would be, and Mick, you would know this better than anyone, is that I really enjoy watching Ethan play when I'm doing live streaming. I think he's amazing. I think he's got great shots. He has great skill. Is he going to have to, or will he go through growing, maybe, I don't want to say growing pains, but growth of, it's different when you're seated number 11 and you're playing 3 or 4 or 5. Now when you're seated 1, 2, or 3, and it's later in the draw, is there going to be a learning curve for him on, how to handle, because now the points are going to go 10 shots longer. They're going to go, 3 games more per set. Is there going to be sort of a learning curve for him?
Yeah, I mean, I would think so. I mean, obviously, my thought always with paddle is like, it really comes down to those big matches, right? And I think the more of those big matches, and what's a big match? Depends, right? For players that have gone deep in the nationals, it's probably quarters or semis, maybe semis and finals in the Grand Prix, finals of tour events, like some of those, but also like some of those like grindy matches where you're not maybe specifically playing your best, but you're kind of able to find a way. And I think I think these matches for him, I would think, and maybe not. And I think these are the matches that every player is going to need under their belt when they can kind of come through in those important moments, and then you have that experience of play well. Like, I'm sure Drew is not faced to play in the semis of nationals because he's been there for 20 times, right? And I think it's a big difference whether you're there the first time. Like Ethan, I think they made the semis this year. Like, he's probably going to be a lot better player in the semis of nationals than he was this year, right? And so I think that's where I think for players, look, paddle is a fun game because as much as we all want to win the tournaments, what really matters is really March, right? It's the 12-hour window that you really need to be the best players. The rest doesn't matter. You can win every tournament of the year. And we all know that everybody, like, the nationals is really what counts. Is that, do I agree?
Yeah,
Yep.
no, it's right.
Yep.
And obviously, I mean, that's kind of like the pinnacle, right? And that's how the sport is set up, where it's one nationals, one Super Bowl. And if you think about even that, is you don't really need to be the best player that tournament. You don't need to be the player. You don't have to be the best player of the year. You just need to be the best team from with the old format. I don't know, because they're changing it now, but you really have to have a good run from Saturday afternoon. No, I would even go Saturday night to Sunday afternoon, right? Meaning you play the quarters and then you have the semis and finals. You might need, I mean, look, me and Sven, that one year we made a final, but that one year we won, we were going in there, making quarters, winning a tournament early in the year. But those 8 hours on Sunday, we were the best team. And whether we got lucky or it just happened or stars aligned. But so I think that's the focus where, you have to, you just have to be, everything has to kind of align for those 2-3 matches, really. 6 sets, right? 6 sets. If you think of it, if you get there, you got to play 6 sets. And then I'm sure there's been years where teams that go in and, they don't execute. And I think the execution is really, that's why this game is really hard or hard to win nationals. And I always heard about it, and I'm fortunate enough that I got one in, and I don't really, if I win another, that's great, but I got my one. Is you really feel it, like how hard of a mental stretch that is to put this together, because you don't have a lot of choices, right? You don't have a lot of chances. So I think that's the cool thing about this game.
Right. I think to add to your point, from as many years as I've been involved and learning throughout the years, is that with exactly what you just said, there aren't many choices. So, when you lob 10 times in a row, you drive 5 times in a row, it's like, okay, I'm still out here. What do I do now? And the best players have always seemed to be able to flip the switch and say, I either have to lob it or drive it one more time. Like, there's no, I think the more disciplined players and the ones that don't try to make something happen are the ones who ultimately prevail.
Yeah, and that's for sure. And also mentally, where, at that stage when you're late in the draw, is like you're kind of playing what you have. Like, you're making adjustments, right? Depending on the score, maybe you play the score more, or some specific opponents. But it's really how you can like climb out, and especially when you look at these finals, even the last few years, it's like exhausting to even think about it, what's going on through their brains, right? It's just, I mean, last year's final, it's like,
Right.
what were they down? Set and 3-0,
Yeah.
right?
No,
It's like, what's going on? It's like, can we pause and just like see what's going on in their brains at that point? And it's just like, and then it just changes, right? And it's just, and then it changes like 20 more times. I remember the final, I was flying back from skiing trip from Europe, was a perfect time. I was flying back from a skiing trip, and it was the Graham and Morgan and Nunez Powers final. And I think I had a 7-hour flight, and the match was 8 hours. I don't think I finished it, but I mean, it's just, it's like, it's painful to watch. It's almost like I'm getting frustrated. So it's just crazy roller coaster. And I think that's the thing when you ask that question about Ethan. I think that's the determination for a lot of players. Is like, you know, like even look at Jose now. It's like he got over the mountain. Like it's gonna be scary to beat him because he's got such a huge mental edge, right? Where he's done it and he knows he can overcome it in that moment. So it's like, again, like very, very hard to, you know, and you go back in the players. I mean, I think I've had a lot of conversations with Dave's brother about it over the years, but it's really the usual suspects making the finals every year, right? You know, you don't really, it's a lot of you know, if you go back with, you know, the Parsons and Drews and Jareds and, you know, Johans and them, is, yes, they were the best players, but they've also been in those moments so much more than anybody else. It's kind of, you know, playing Djokovic in the semifinals of Grand Slam, like he's been there for 100 times. And if you're playing your first semifinal, that's not even fair.
Right. You're a lot more nervous than he is.
That's not even, and even though Djokovic shouldn't win that match, it's still where he's been there 100 times. So it's like, how do you overcome that? And I think that's where I think the level of attention in nationals is very different than, you know, finals of Boston, and, you know, they're big tournaments, but I think the level of, you know, because, you know, it's just 1 year and it's just, that's what matters. I would say, at least for the top players, I would say, I think it's fair to say. And maybe if anybody disagrees with me, then
No, I
what
think
can I do?
that's a good point, and interested to see your thoughts on this. But last year, obviously, they made the change to no ad scoring, which hopefully could lead to more upsets and maybe seeing some new faces out there. 1 year
Uh-huh.
into that, what are your thoughts on no ad? Are you a fan of it? Is it something you want to continue, or would you rather go back to the old way?
Depends. Like, I don't have very strong feelings because, you know, I've played a few tournaments, but I'm not actively playing, you know, 8-10 events a year. For me personally, it's a disadvantage, right? And that's me personally, because I'm essentially losing my best shot one point in the game, right? Because usually, you know, I've seen that where I don't, you know, they probably might, and it's because I'm a lefty and it's a deuce court serve, so that's already naturally an advantage for me. So on the returners end, so I could see this being a disadvantage for some people that return. Also, you know, it's a slight advantage for the server, but I probably would prefer like second deuce. I don't think it makes a difference. I think it still kind of goes back to a bit of an option. So, but as we saw, you know, it didn't change much. I mean, I guess it was the same like when they changed in tennis, where like the top teams still remained the top teams, right? It wasn't much of a difference. But I personally, not that it matters, I would probably prefer the second deuce, just to go back. I do not prefer. I mean, but I actually would prefer third set tiebreaker to 10. I would be a fan of that, and I think that rule would make more fun, because you're still having 3-hour matches, right? You're still having 4-hour matches, even with
the sudden death.
Go
I don't think from
No,
a standpoint of match results last year, I don't think there were many changes in the outcome of what people thought. I think it did have an effect on the score. So, you know, you play a team and, you know, the number 2 seed supposed to beat the number 5 seed, but now all of a sudden it's 2-2 because the number 2 seed, they won every sudden deuce point, whereas in a regular match maybe they win 6-4, 7-5. So I don't think it increased any upsets. I don't think it's been earth-shattering to where, you know I haven't gotten any emails over this summer from the APTA saying, the players are boycotting playing if we go back to it. So I don't think it really had a huge effect. I do think it does add a little bit more of a level of excitement to the fan watching it, because now this is it. But to Mick's point, and I said this a while ago, that in the beginning, maybe they shaved off 20 minutes a match, but give it another year and the matches are going to be back to 5 hours.
Eventually what really happens is people just have to make more decisions, right? This is what the game comes down to, right?
Right.
It's like, are you able to, how many decisions you want to take? And that decisions usually come with the drives, right? Because drives and volleys are the shots that people miss the most. People don't miss a lot of overheads or lobs even in a match, right? If you think about it, like how many lobs do you miss? You don't miss 20 lobs. You miss 7 lobs and you miss 5 overheads, right? So you miss volleys and drives. So if you're just using those data points and you can manipulate those a little bit, that's where you can get the difference, right? That's where you can get the points that you might not usually get, right? So that's kind of I think that number is important to look into. And now it's just like, okay, the game is going to end. Essentially, players that are willing to go longer in the distance, there's a stop sign, right? Like that point, and now that might put more pressure on the players that are more willing to work the point through. Let's say make a little bit less decisions. Now they're kind of forced to make a decision, right? And that's where you can disrupt. So that's where I could see the slight advantage would come in for the levels could even up where based on the paper, right? You should see some upsets, but we didn't really see that many upsets.
Right. And I just want to add to that, because I was going to say it earlier on too, when we were talking about, a lot of newer players coming up, and, are they going to have that learning curve of going further in tournaments where, look, you have teams in these draws in the first round that are potentially just as good as the teams that win it. But there's one team that wins and there's one team that doesn't. What's the difference? The guys that lose in the first round, they don't swing and miss. Like, nobody's swinging and missing. So why are they losing? And I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier and what Mikk just brought up of, it's all decision making. It's information. It's, going for the right shot in that moment, where it's like a more experienced player knows that, like, that's the sucker shot. Don't go for it, because, and I think at the end of the day, like to Mick's point earlier on when we were talking about it, where at the end of the day, paddle is always probably going to be more of a mental challenge than it is a physical challenge.
All right, Luke, you want to do your rapid fire and we'll wrap this up?
Yeah.
Rapid fire. Okay.
Yeah, so Mikk, which racket are you using this year? You've been using Master, right? Are you sticking with that?
Master, yeah. And Pro, I believe it is.
What about shoes?
Nothing specific. Depends. A lot of K-Swiss. The Master's been hooking me up with those. So I like the K-Swiss ones. So yeah.
And then give a shout out to one paddle hut courts that you love to play at. Not your home courts, not Montclair, but a place that you think is just a really special, cool place to play at.
Ooh. What's a cool spot?
Clearwater?
Fellsbrook.
Fellsbrook.
Yep. That's a great spot. Great crew over there too.
Fellsbrook. Yep. Fellsbrook is my second home club, So I don't play there, but I can go there as a member. So Fellsbrook Hut. There's probably people over there right now. I can see it. So there's probably lights on there right now, people playing. So
Dave, will your nephew be playing for them in the state league this year?
I'm sure.
I heard he got a call up for their B team, is the whisper. I already heard the pecking order is being, and so Vince got a call up, so he'll be up there. Yeah. So
do you know if all the actual members of Fellsbrook played for Fellsbrook, they can be a contender in the A-League?
Yeah, Fellsbrook has a secret squad, and there's also some future prospects coming up. So
who's missing, Diamond?
Well, you have Mick, you have Drew, so they could have a pretty good team
Oh,
out of
wow.
coming out of Fellsbrook. You
And
have,
and
you have
Fellsbrook has are
the
they in the A
Cat,
division? Are they in the A division?
yeah.
And they have an A division team without Mick and Drew. I mean, that's a pretty good statement. Hey, how's that?
Wow.
How's that? That's a pretty good team, right?
That is.
Well,
Orchestrated,
they're led by
orchest-
Jimmy the
yeah,
Cat Irwin.
orchestrated by the one and only, Jimmy the Cat, one and only.
That's awesome. And then just to
Yeah.
finish it up, one tournament that you would is kind of circled on your calendar that you want to win that you haven't taken home yet. So obviously you've won probably the two biggest, which would be League Classic and Nationals, but anywhere that you haven't won that you'd like to take down.
Yeah, I was just about to say, if you're asking for one tournament, I was like, do we need to ask which one I really want to win? But the one tournament, I don't know. Any tournament at this stage would be fun to win. Maybe Short Hills. I think I made a couple of finals. Played really well, but never won it. Actually, I think I made maybe 2 or 3 finals, bunch of semis, good matches with a few different partners. So Short Hills would be fun to win. It's we got a lot of people, and it's a great event. It's a Jersey event, and all Jersey events are awesome. And but my favorite one by far is League Classic. There is no better. There's no better. I'm already hearing, who's Nunez gonna play with, who's Alvi's leaving, who's Russell's gonna it's like already starting, right? It's like, and like everybody just keeps talking of it until and then who's gonna be the seeds, and then you got a call about the match and who you played, and it's like the best, right? It's just like everybody's so involved, and it's great. And me and Zimmer, we already started practicing. We didn't practice the last years, but we're coming in, and I love playing League Classic. I started at Essex Fells 2015 when I was fortunate to get the director job, and I remember when I got the job in May, it was like people just talking about the League Classic, and I've been fortunate. Actually, my fun fact, I think Dennis brought it up, where I've not missed the League Classic semi. I've not missed the Monday night since I moved to Jersey, 2015.
Wow. And
Yep.
as we were talking about earlier,
maybe it won't listen. Maybe the strike will be broken, but that's actually probably I would say it's a good feat, and a few finals, and I didn't play 1 year, I think, and the COVID year didn't happen. So yeah, and I think with Dave, we battles against Dave, and with Dennis Cusack, we made a final. That was a special one, and also we used to play at Essex Fells when I was a pro. So when the finals were held there, and then my first year, the finals was at Montclair, and Fairmont now has done a great job. So League Classic is really truly, I'm sure everybody agrees, is really the best paddle event.
People, just to add to that, and I'm kind of biased being that I think I've been on the New Jersey men's board now for 26 years, 27 years, whatever it's going to be. But people outside of New Jersey don't even understand what Monday night is like.
Yeah.
I mean, Saturday,
you'll have to see it.
Saturday is a whole nother spectacle all on its own. But what goes on Monday night is it's truly special.
And we were talking about, the pro tournaments and, familiarity. And if you're playing Djokovic in a semi and it's your first semi, I mean, we were all there last year. And on Monday night, you could tell Mick was, thriving, especially in that final, and kind of took his level up a little bit, was interacting with the crowd. So I know all the people that are there love that. And it was fun to watch. It was an incredible match.
It's really, it's great because you see your club players, they're kind of rubbing a little bit against the clubs, like which club. So there's a little bit of that, right? It's different because, and I think maybe that makes it so special too, because the players want to win, but the club members are going to feel some more like we want our pros to win. So you're playing for your club. So you have a bit of a more, what's the right word?
Collegial.
Yeah, right. I think that's what makes it special, because it's like, and now, you have this like unique situation where, I always, me and Evan always talk about is like, you can't win, dude. It's like, it's hard for you because, you're playing against the top pros and the level in Jersey. I mean, who we're missing, right? I mean, you got now, I think Gia is coming, right, to Jersey. It's like, you got probably what, 5, 6 top 10 players within 15-minute radius, right? So now you're throwing in, club players that are incredible, right? Incredible players. And they've competed in high level tennis mostly, but they don't travel tournaments. They, they have a, as we call, a regular job, right? And now
As opposed
they're
to our
coming in.
regular job.
Yes, like we have, but now they're coming in and they're gonna get that, which people don't talk about it. Like they're coming in there, and there is 300 people drinking bourbon, and it's live streamed. Everyone's heckling. It's tough task. That's a tough task. And there, by the way, that excuse me, the Alvies and Russells and Micks and Drews, like they're smelling blood, right? Smelling blood from the get-go. And now you're just like, oh my God, it's like, that must be tough. So I give them a lot of credit. And unfortunately, they really, if you think about it, they are really the difference makers. Yeah. But they really, they either win for their pros or they lose for them, right? And that's a tough task, but they have to handle it. Like they're not really getting the full credit because, so that's a tough task, for the most part. Again, there are so many club players that can play with all the pros, like Zach Rosenhaus and Evans and Dan Urbans. Like they're as good, but they just don't do this for, living, right? So it's a different boat. Like, would you want to get thrown into a basketball game in front of crowd? And now you gotta, like, you have one role. You gotta make a couple of free throws, right? Or a third, So it's like, if you make it, it's great, but I'm sure you're gonna feel some pressure.
And the entire crowd is drunk and yelling at you while you're shooting the free throws.
It's
like
Mad,
5 feet away.
Mad
Like,
Max beyond Thunderdome. I mean, the Garvey boys definitely impacted one of those semi matches because they were getting under the skin of one of the non-pros. I'm not going to name who it is, but he literally stopped in the middle of the match and told them, to go pound sand. So
yeah, I mean, I might know the pro, but listen, it comes with the territory, right? It's like, this is what it is. Like it's on, right? It's on, and everybody's gonna try to say civil, but everybody's gonna try to win, and that's what it is. And I'm sure the pro and pros, they feel bad, but at that moment, they want to win.
Mikk, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate your time. This was a lot of fun. Sorry it started out so serious, but we ended on a more entertaining.
Yeah, you got to put some music. You got to get some too. You got to make it a little more livelier. You got to get a little. But otherwise, thanks for having me, and thanks for the shout out to Montclair Open. And it's again for it's a great way. It's a great way to promote the event early in the year, and share share the post, and spread the word, and invite your fellow friends to come down and tune in, or just tune in on live stream. And the more better to, I know it kind of sounds like a cliché, but like the more better, like the more the people are involved, the better the tournaments will become. And Jersey paddle is, selfishly, I think it's the best area right now.